Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Summer of Sport. This is a BookTube event created by Mark at Book Time with Elvis, where a bunch of us read sports-related literature in the course of the whole summer, fiction or nonfiction. I started out strong out of the gate with Summer of Sport by reading fiction. I read a gay hockey romance, and then I read another gay hockey romance, and then I read yet another gay hockey romance, until it started to look like if I didn't do something to wrench myself out of that pattern, I would be reading gay hockey romances for the rest of the summer. I'm not saying that's a punishment. I might be able to live with that, but I want a little more variety than that. I bet you do too. So I cast a field for my next Summer of Sport book. Not only non-hockey related, and not only fiercely heterosexual, but also not fiction. So I read, last night, I read Hugh Richards' book, A Game for Hooligans, which is about rugby, and which reminded me, as so many sports literature books do, that there are large numbers of sports out there in the world that are just a closed kingdom to me. I'm never going to understand them. I think maybe it has to do, some of you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I think maybe it has to do, that fundamental gut level realization might have to do with whether or not you yourself have ever played the sport or even witnessed it, sat in the stands and watched it, or known someone who played it. Maybe if the answer to all those things is no, maybe it's just going to seem utterly strange to you, like Fizbin. And maybe that's true with rugby, which is one of the strangest of, admittedly, the high number of strange English sports. This author was doing his best. He was trying to explain. He actually does a really good job. He quotes a lot of people, past, living and dead, as to the allure of rugby, as to its incomprehensibility. A lot of people in the book comment on how incomprehensible it is. That's a tank rolling by. That gigantic rattling sound was a tank rolling by. But it's gone now. What was I saying? I would have had to scream my head off over that sound. It shook the buildings in their foundations. It was so strong. But it's over now. A number of people in this book either state outright or make allusions to the fact that rugby is going to be something of a mystery to outsiders. And I gather from the book, some of you who are rugby fans, of course our most famous rugby fan on BookTube right now is Joe Spivey, who I imagine, as I'm making this video, is 3 sheets to the wind in celebration of his team's victory in rugby. But some of you who know rugby can maybe tell me if I'm wrong about this. The strong impression I got when I was reading this book is that rugby only became even marginally comprehensible to outside viewers comparatively recently. In the lifetime of people who are alive today, rugby went from being basically a social occasion where enemies got together on the village green to try to kill each other with the slim pretext of a game, to being an actual game with rules and things you can't do and something that could be considered a foul or a technicality. I get the strong impression that right up until very recently, rugby was basically just a blood sport, that now it has become civilized, marginally civilized. And that might even be money involved in rugby nowadays, whereas the impression I got from a lot of the people who are interviewed, Hugh Richards is a great interviewer. The impression I got from a lot of the people that he interviews is that none of them ever, they grew up with rugby and never thought there would ever be any money in it, that it would never be professional in any way. That it would always be a very amateur, very our boys, very neighborhood thing. Sort of like... what would be the New York equivalent would be stickball, and the New England equivalent would be parking lot hockey that is done without ice, something like that, where it's a very local thing and you know the people. I got the impression from reading this book that rugby has only recently gone Hollywood, so to speak. But as to understanding the game, as to really getting it on a visceral level, no. No, this author did the best job he can possibly do. If any of you know of a book that does a better job or tries to, let me know. I'm by no means done with the subject. I've got all summer. But this author tried his best to make rugby comprehensible during the few moments in the book, especially when he was sort of wrapping things up, when he was bringing things up to the present day, when he realized that not everybody knows rugby backwards and forwards, that not everybody knows rugby as a gospel and every name of every player and every substitute player and whatnot. every once in a while in the course of the book, he remembers that that is true, that most people in the world, like 99.999% of the people in the world, have never even heard the word rugby and don't know anything about the game. And then in those occasions, he would try his best to broaden the scope just a little and maybe talk about the spirit of the game or whatnot. He was never convincing to me. I liked much more hearing all the dirty deals and the backstabbing and the horrible ways that rugby people have treated each other over the decades. I liked much more reading about that just as a kind of soap opera than I did him trying to make me understand the game. He never actually made me understand the game. But I really enjoyed it. He's a terrific writer and a terrific interviewer. So I read a game for Hooligans in honor of rugby, and I liked it. This is the magic of summer of sport for me, is that I'm constantly experiencing books like this on rugby or soccer or football or basketball or whatever, and getting a little bit closer. I've never been a professional sports guy. I've never been a sports guy at all. I'm not a team player, and I've never been a sports guy. So it's all a bit of an alien world to me. But I love what it brings out in its writers. Certainly it brings out a lot in this writer. I don't know if he's written anything else, but this was enjoyable to read from start to finish. For an outsider, that's a feat. But I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying. That's part of the fun of it for me. Part of the summer of sport is reading all these weird things I would never read otherwise. So maybe I'll continue this. Maybe my next few summer of sports videos will also be books about sports with which I have no connection at all. That could be. There are plenty out there. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll let you know then. We'll see what's coming down the pike. But that's my summer of sport report for now. Thank you, BookTube.